we play a game?
Why, yes. I believe we shall.
Oh, I got a live one here.
Not live from Little Rock, it's Shane Plays Geek Talk, a journey into the things we love. I'm your host, Shane Stacks. Thanks so much for joining, whether you're listening on May 18th, Saturday, May 18th, or is it 19th? No, Saturday, May 19th at 1 p.m. Central on 101.1 FM The Answer, or on the online stream at 101fmtheanswer.com, or if you're listening by podcast or on Krypton Radio. I'm just glad to have you. We have people that listen to the show in all kinds of ways and formats, and I love it. So thanks for being here. Normally, this is when I would give out the call-in number. It doesn't make sense today because this is pre-recorded. I'm actually, right now, if everything came together, if all the time travel worked correctly, unless a Kinder is involved and then everything went totally horribly bad and I'm in the abyss, as long as everything went okay, then I'm at the Little Rock Comic-Con with Mike Tennell and hanging out with all the cool guests and 15 comic book vendors and cool stuff, and we will be back next week live, and then last week was live. So anyway, want to introduce my guest. Today we're going to be talking about and it should be, this book is out in hobby stores or preferred Wizards of the Coast stores today. I think it came out on the 18th. The show should be broadcasting on the 19th, and we're going to be talking about Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes with, and folks, get this, I've got two incredible D&D Wizards of the Coast wizards with us today, and that is Jeremy E. Crawford and Kate Welch. Jeremy and Kate, welcome to Shane Plays.
Oh, thank you. Great to be here.
Thanks, Shane. This is awesome.
Yeah, really, really glad to have you. As we talked about before the show, I reached out to Greg Tito, and I said, hey, man, I'd love to do a Mordenkainen show. And, he put me in touch with, the agency that helps you handle those sort of requests. And lo and behold, and Mark was like, hey, you want to talk to Jeremy Crawford and Kate Welch? And I was like, yeah. So this is great. I've gotten to talk with Chris Perkins a couple times in the past. He's a lot of fun. I got to talk with Mike Merles, and now, I'm talking with Jeremy Crawford and Kate Welch. Now, most people probably know from 5th edition, Jeremy Crawford is the lead rules designer and managing editor. Now, Kate, you have sort of you were with the Acquisitions Incorporated C team, and then I think you did some like vlogging or blogging, and then now you're a D&D designer, actually on the Wizards of the Coast team. Did I get that right?
Yeah, more or less. I've been a game designer professionally in video games for about 7 years.
Oh, fantastic. Okay.
So this is my first foray into the analog medium.
Okay.
But, yeah, this is something I've done for a long time.
Okay, so, and, we're mainly going to be talking about Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, but before I get to the show notes and everything, I wanted to give you both a chance to, introduce yourselves, kind of talk about, what you do. So, and I'll start with you, Kate, and then we'll circle over to Jeremy. So what exactly does a D&D designer do?
Well, so far, as of the airing of this show, I will have been at the company a little over 3 months. So my first 3 months may or may not be indicative of my long-term career. But thus far, it has been a great deal of reading, a lot of reading a lot.
Right.
And reading a little more.
Reading some more after that, yeah. It's been a lot of me asking Jeremy questions that he will politely guide me to our style guide or the Chicago Manual of Style, and trying my best to sort of ingest and come out of my pores everything that 5th edition contains.
So being a game designer means you ooze stuff from your pores.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
Exactly. I'm really glad to let this truth out finally.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense. Okay, so that's where all the goodness comes from. All right.
Exactly.
Fantastic. So
my mentor every day that I've been here.
I love it. So, and then now I just wanted to, introduce people to maybe other stuff you do or have done. You were also involved with the She Geek show. Is that correct? Am I getting that right?
A long time ago.
Okay.
That was a video blog that I did about nerd stuff.
Okay.
Mostly video games. That was before I had a video game career, but I think it helped me get that. So yeah, it's a really embarrassing part of my life, but thanks for bringing it up.
So it's you're one of those unique individuals that was able to turn incredibly enthusiastic fandom into you're actually part of it now.
Yeah, very lucky.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of people, love the Acquisitions Incorporated C team, and now you're with you're actually a D&D designer. So fantastic. Good for you. Now, what is your role? Has it already begun, or what will it be? Or were you able to contribute to Mordenkainen's?
It was, actually.
Okay.
I have a very fond story about this. On my second day at Wizards, I was reading through, I probably read through the text of Mordenkainen's 6 times in my first 2 weeks, just over and over and over again, because it was the very end of the production process. And so we're trying to catch last-minute typos and printing errors. And I remember catching some content that I brought to Jeremy, and I said, hey, I think this can be better. If we just change a word here, I think this will read better for our fans. And he's like, yeah, we could change that word, or if you want to, you could just redesign this whole section. And I was taken aback. This was day 2. I've been like less than 9 hours on the job.
You haven't even finished the benefits paperwork yet.
Not at all.
Yeah.
No, not even close.
Right.
And so I got to do this thing and collaborate with Jeremy on my second day here. And so that's kind of been this microcosmic version of my whole experience here on the team.
Well, cool. All right, and I have a vital question that millions across the globe are waiting with bated breath to know. And all right, so Kate, so just between me, it's just me and you. Nobody else has to know.
Right.
Is everyone at Wizards of the Coast really a bunch of evil mice hiding in android bodies and planning to take over the real world?
So Jeremy is leveling the crossbow at me. So if they are, they are the kindest mice in android bodies that you could ever want to meet.
Okay, all right, and they're not cheesy at all. I'm sorry, that's the way my. Oh yeah, I should have warned y'all. There's always a bad joke of the week at the end of the show, so I've picked out a special D&D bad joke of the week for the end of the show.
I like it.
All right, and the other thing, Kate, I have to know: have you met Milo yet?
I have not, but gosh, have I heard about him.
Yeah.
He hasn't come to visit the office. I'm kind of mad about it.
Yeah, that is the most famous Chewini in the world. So,
I agree.
Yeah, so, all right. Okay, and like I said, we will talk more about Mordenkainen's and other things here in a moment. But Jeremy, so I just wanted to, like I said you're the D&D lead rules designer and managing editor, but what does that actually mean? Would you like to share anything about that to our rabid listeners?
So what that means is I oversee every book we publish for Dungeons & Dragons, and that's been true going back to a year or so before the release of 5th edition. Oversaw also all of the rules design for 5th edition, and then also as managing editor, it means I oversee the work of our editors, and we see that the marriage of rules and editing as being a very natural one, because basically the coding language we use for all of our game design is English. So that's why we often marry having editorial skill with having game design skill. I also often get to take off my sort of rules developer hat and my editor hat and put on the designer hat, and so was the lead designer of the Player's Handbook and one of the designers of Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. So as we often say in the office, I'm a wizard with many hats.
The wizard with many hats. You're a wizard that you sort yourself. You have a self-sorting hat that sorts you to the correct role at that time. So
yeah.
So I just wanted to congratulate you. You know, I've had the pleasure of talking, like I said, with Chris Perkins, Mike Merles, Rodney Thompson. Actually, I talked with him after he had left Wizards of the Coast, and I just want to congratulate you all on 5th edition. You know,
thank you very much.
It's been a smash. It's helped the entire tabletop role-playing industry and hobby. You know, I tell everyone we're in a renaissance, a golden age right now. You know, so congratulations. It was a magnificent edition. And, you know, I enjoy it. That's what I play in my weekly D&D game. So I think it's a great feel of kind of old school D&D, but it plays quickly, and, you know, and it's not rules light, but it's not rules cumbersome, and people love it. So good job. Yeah, I just want to say that.
Thanks.
And I love how you kind of talked about it being a programming language. If you think, I mean, it is a game engine, right? So I think a lot of times people don't think of it that way, but there is a game engine, running the game. Just like you're programming, something to run a piece of software. So but what's really cool is anybody can adapt it to their needs at that time. So it's like everyone can be a little bit of a software developer playing D&D in a sort of a weird philosophical analogy there. So I'm gonna get out of that ditch before I go further down there and confuse people. But I'm an IT guy. I'm kind of a programmer and stuff. So I loved that analogy you made. So now I asked Kate a super secret question. So now I have one for you. And
I'm ready for it.
All right, Jeremy, how does it feel to be in social media the frequently asked questions fact that walk like a man?
It often delights me
Yeah.
because I love to see how people dig into the game.
Right.
It also often makes me laugh because, on one hand, I often laugh in pleasure because people will surprise me with crazy things they're coming up with in their games, and which spawn these really fascinating questions. And then also sometimes people are just really funny. So
Right.
anytime I'm reading rules questions, people in the office will often hear me cackling.
Right.
Yeah,
My dad.
always. Suddenly it'll be dead silent for hours, and then
Yeah.
God, Jeremy's on Twitter again.
The cackle. Jeremy cackles. Now, the second part of the super secret question I had for you is, do you ever have fever dreams that there is a rules as written Jeremy versus the rules as interpreted Jeremy? Or rules as intended, I mean. Excuse me.
So I have in my head jumbling around not only the rules as written and the rules as we intended them, but also the rules that we designed and then killed. So it's like I also have the ghosts of rules past.
Yeah, the ghost of rules past. That'd be great. I'd love to see a Christmas Carol or something like that written about the D&D rules of the past and the present and the future. That'd be pretty cool. That'd be a cool module, actually. That's a good idea. Somebody needs to do that for the DMs Guild. Okay, and then one final thing, and then I want to move. I got some show notes, and then I'm going to move us into Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. I did want to say, an underlying theme that I see in the answers that you give out, and Chris Perskin gets asked, and Mike Merles, and you're all very nice to answer questions on Twitter and social media. One of the underlying principles that I'll offer to my listeners is, once you understand the principles of D&D and get those solid, you can instantly answer a lot of your own questions. So, and what I mean by that, like I saw something come across today on Twitter, and somebody said, if you go to 0 hit points from psychic damage, do you have to make death saves? And, the underlying principle there is damage is damage. There's different types of damage, but you've still been taken to 0 hit points, so it would require death saves. Unless there's something specifically under psychic damage that says, if you go to 0 hit points, you don't have to make death saves, right? So unless something specifically says otherwise, you go with the overarching principle. So, that's just something I think that if you can get those solid principles of how the rules work, then a lot of the stuff that seems like, well, this is weird, it actually makes total sense once you understand how the principles work together. So I hope I said that right. Did I mangle that, or would you agree with that, Jeremy?
No, you got that 100%.
Okay.
Because really the way we design the game is a set of general rules, and there aren't actually a whole lot of them, that are essentially always in force unless some other rule makes an exception and basically turns one of the general rules off. So you can pretty much always confidently use those general rules until something says, nope, not in this instance.
Right.
And you're exactly right that psychic damage has no such exception. In fact, no damage type has any special rule associated with it. And we did that on purpose to keep the core game as lean as possible.
Cool. I want to move us on. Like I said, I did drop the news segment. I'm putting my show at risk here because normally I banter with my engineer, Zach, because my news team, the lead of the news team, Sal, his grandmother and her dog Muffin, they get mad at me if I don't banter with Zach. But to give plenty, I'm serious, it's no joke. And to give plenty of time for Mordenkainen's, I'm dumping this. So Zach, I'm in for it.
It's okay.
I'm in for it. Muffin is not going to be happy. So anyway, even though we're time traveling, I did see Infinity War, Zach.
That's cool.
We'll talk about it. Actually, this like 2 weekends ago, as opposed when this show is going to air, but really, what is today? May 2nd in reality? This coming weekend, I'll talk about Infinity War.
Okay.
So anyway, All right. So let's do this. Now that I have not bantered with Zach and Sal's grandmother and her dog Muffin are going to express their displeasure to me, let's introduce the listeners to what Mordenkainen's is. Then we'll take a break and we'll come back. We'll go deeper into it. So here's what I've purposefully done. I know about Mordenkainen's and I've been keeping up with it, but for the purposes of this show, what I'd like to do is let's role play because we all like to do that, right? And the class I'm going to play is a 0 level clueless on Mordenkainen's. That's the class that I'm playing. I've rolled that up. So, I've got the potential, but I don't know anything about it. So if, let's just say I'm just some random person who likes D&D, likes to play D&D, and you're wanting to tell them, hey, we got this new book coming out, and here's what's cool about it. So we could just do this show that way. So, Jeremy, Kate, whichever one of you wants to kind of give the elevator pitch on what Mordenkainen's is, we'll do that. And then, like I said, we'll take a break and come back and go deeper into it.
All right, Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes is really the sibling to Volo's Guide to Monsters. It's another awesome collection of stat blocks that you can work into your adventures and campaigns, coupled with a whole first half of the book that's all about the different stories of different peoples and monsters in the D&D multiverse. This book specifically drills into a number of the major conflicts in the multiverse, the conflict between demons and devils, that's called the Blood War, the conflicts among various types of elves, specifically between the Drow and most of the other elf families, the war between dwarves and Dwergar, the war between Githyanki and Githzerai, and then we also delve a little bit into the fact that halflings and gnomes don't have any major cosmic struggles. So we talk about there's all this cosmic struggle, but then we have these little folk who manage to largely live lives of peace in the various worlds that they appear in. And then, as I mentioned, monster after monster after monster after monster. Tons of monsters in this book. And with an emphasis in the monster section on higher level threats. We have monsters that span the range of challenge ratings with favoring a bit monsters at the upper end so that we can challenge higher level parties.
And I mean, I would guess that that's because 5th edition's been out long enough now that that's more and more of an interest for players, right? Because you've got more campaigns that have been around, so you have more people at higher level. I don't know. I mean, is that, do you think about it from that terms, or is it like, oh, it'd just be neat to have a bunch of higher level monsters?
So that's something that we heard from the community, that they wanted more higher level threats. And our design is always a conversation with the community. We're constantly asking the community, what do you like? What do you dislike? What do you want more of? What do you want less of? And one of the things we've heard fairly consistently is we'd love to see some bigger, badder threats. And we do also know that given the life of the edition, that home campaigns in particular are more likely to be in the upper tiers of play.
Right.
Now, that said, we know that most D&D campaigns occur between levels 1 and 10, which is why even in a book like this that has a lot of higher level threats, we still also have monsters that are for those lower levels, because the majority of D&D campaigns tend to dwell in that sweet spot. A lot of people feel that especially the 5th to about 10th level experience is often when people are happiest with D&D. And that's actually been true for many editions, not just 5th edition.
Well, it's a good blend of challenge versus you still feel yourself, growing like more powerful, or, your character's growing and developing or whatever. If I remember right, like first edition Dragonlance, once your character got like 10th level or something, the gods would take your character away out of that setting because you were becoming so powerful, if I remember right. So
there was a bit of a phase out that did occur. I don't remember the exact level, but you are right that that setting essentially had a different level cap than the rest of the settings in the D&D multiverse.
Right, and there's nothing wrong at all. I just want to stress with higher level characters or campaigns, D&D can scale. Totally scale. So I don't want to imply that it's bad to play higher level stuff. Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to go to a break. When we come back, I want to go deeper into what Mordenkainen's is, when people can get it, what they can find in there, all the goodness, all the Mordenkainen's goodness. And I've got a short history lesson for maybe newer players who don't know who Mordenkainen was. So we'll go into that a little bit too.
Comic book lovers, visit thewildstars.com today. From the mind of author and comic book industry expert Michael Tierney, it's not just a comic book, it's a comic book novel. The Wild Stars is sci-fi and so much more. Learn the explanations behind UFOs and space gods. This isn't the Twilight Zone. This is the region of the Milky Way galaxy known as the Wild Stars. We guarantee you've never read anything like it. The complete comic book novel took 20 years to tell, with one reviewer noting, the story of the Wild Stars stretches ambitiously across space and time, from small-town murders to the destruction of planets, with every event given multiple layers of meaning. If you haven't read The Wild Stars, you're missing out. Visit thewildstars.com today. The die is cast. Plunge into worlds of fantastic adventure where dragons lie and the undead stalk the shades of your mind's imagines. Where creatures of legend plunder wealth through the horror of their passage. Monsters grim and foul hold the ecstasy of gold and the renown of glory. All this and more awaits you and your friends in the unlimited, fantastic world of the Castles and Crusades role-playing game from Trollord Games. Visit your friendly local game store or Trollord.com to get your copy today. A rules-light, adaptable game that has stood the test of time. 12 years in constant publication with no new additions. Castles and Crusades is the original, easy-to-play attribute check system. Join us and unleash your imagination. Visit your friendly local game store or Trollord.com to get your copy of Castles and Crusades today. Shane Plays Radio is blessed to have sponsors, and we appreciate them very much. However, did you know that you can also support the show as an individual for as little as $1 an episode? Simply go to patreon.com/Shane Plays.
Hey, we're back on Shane Plays Geek Talk, a journey into the things we love. Today is a fantastic show. I'm really pleased. I feel like I rolled a natural 20 when the DC was 20 to be talking with Jeremy Crawford. Well, they're both from Wizards of the Coast D&D team. I'm talking with Jeremy E. Crawford, who's the D&D lead rules designer and managing editor, and Kate Welch, who's the D&D designer, has been on the team for a few months. Sounds like she's already having a lot of fun. And you may know her from the Acquisitions Incorporated C team, where she's been, doing the live streaming D&D, which gets even ever more popular every day and has been helping the hobby a lot. So welcome back to the show. And before the break, we kind of introduced, we're talking about Mordenkainen's Tome Foes. And Jeremy kind of was like, hey, it's a half lore book, half book full of monsters, and it's written from the perspective of Mordenkainen, who's going through all the multiverse, if you will, and talking about all these races and conflicts, and it's a lot of really good information for players and DMs, and it doesn't just have higher level monsters, but they did make sure to include some higher level challenges and monsters for higher level players. So one thing I forgot to do towards the beginning of the show, because we got to talking about evil mice and androids and that kind of thing, was the show notes and links, if you're listening on the podcast version or Krypton radio version for today's show, are up at shaneplays.com. And the show does go out as a podcast on the blog, shaneplays.com, iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, and more. And last but never, ever, ever least, Shane Plays is carried on Krypton Radio. Krypton Radio is sci-fi for your Wi-Fi. KryptonRadio.com. And folks, don't forget that Shane Plays sponsor Arkansas RPG Con 2018 badge sales are now open. You can go to arpgcon.com for more info, and make sure to follow Arkansas RPG Con on Facebook. Okay, show notes are done. So, Jeremy, you kind of told us what Mordenkainen's was, and we're role playing that I know nothing about Mordenkainen's. So, say we're all three of us are standing in a game store, and Jeremy just told me how amazingly cool Mordenkainen's was, and you happen to be standing there, Kate, and you're like, oh yeah, and it's also, is there anything that you'd like to add to it?
I don't think so. So Jeremy gave an excellent overview of it, and like I said, I've read it probably 6 times back to back.
Wow.
So because of the copy editing process at the end, but I think the blood war aspect of this book can't be understated how cool this is. Like the demons and devils conflict. I think this is going to be the part that people get really excited about, especially when it comes to higher level play. The characters that are being detailed out in this section of Mordenkainen's is probably my favorite part. I'm not a high level player. I've never gotten past what I am now, which is level 7, and I'm loving level 7. Very cool level. So I don't know that I necessarily would be the kind of person who would face these monsters anytime soon, but the abilities and the powers and the conflicts, the fights that are going to come out of these monsters are going to be legendary. And the groups that run them are going to have a really good time. Now,
are you guys going to do sell big foam fingers like Team Devil and Team Demon, and then people in game stores can?
Well, now we are.
Yeah, put a logo on there.
Great idea.
Yeah. I would be on Team Yugoloth. They're the ones pulling the strings.
Okay, that sounds cool. Yeah, I mean, it sounds really neat. And there, before the break, Jeremy, you said something that caught my ear. How did you? I always say Duergar. How did you pronounce it? You said Derriger or something. How did you say it?
Duergar.
Duergar. Is that the official, phonetically? I can put that in the book way to say it.
You know what? I have no idea.
No idea? Okay.
And it's funny that even some of us who've been working on D&D for a decade or more,
right,
for some of these words in the game, we have different pronunciations for them. So we will sometimes have to put our heads together and say, all right, maybe it's time we actually settled on what is the official pronunciation.
Right.
Although in many ways I like that we have different pronunciations, because it points at how in many ways each of us makes D&D our own, and that's true. Every DM, that however you pronounce these made-up words, or in some cases they're actually sometimes words from really ancient human folklore or myth, where we also don't even know in our world how the original speakers pronounce these words.
This is true.
It's often just it's everyone's best guess.
Yeah, you're about to get the etymology, Jeremy Crawford.
Yes.
It's coming out right now.
Yeah.
I'm not sure you want to wander into those woods with me. Because I will now talk for the next hour on ancient myths and its influence on Dungeons and Dragons.
Dungeons and Dragons, yep. Those primal myths. So, okay, so let's talk real quick. So Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes is it's kind of a half lore book, half. It sounds like all these monsters, and there's some characters that'll have actual stat blocks and that sort of thing. So, Volo's Tome of Foes, you said it's kind of a companion book to Volo, or not Tome of Foes, Volo's Guide to Monsters. You said it's kind of a companion book, and Volo's was like half lore, and then almost like a 0.5 monster manual, half a monster manual you could add on to the other. It had a lot of monsters. So is Mordenkainen the same way, that many monster entries?
There are, if I remember correctly, even more monsters in Tome of Foes. And just like Volo's Guide to Monsters, the Tome of Foes has a number of new character options for player characters in it as well. So there are some new options for tieflings. There are some new elf options. We have dwarf options. Gith Yankee and Gith Sarai are introduced as playable races. So lots of goodies in here for players as well.
Oh wow! So we have new options for existing races. We have new playable races, the Gith Yankee and the Gith Sarai. Now the Gith Yankee is that classic picture on the front of the original Fiend Folio, right? That's a Gith. Yeah. Now what is it? I'm having trouble thinking of is Gith Sarai kind of from the same plane as a Gith Yankee, or are they similar types of creatures?
Well, they were originally the same people, and after they were freed from enslavement, because they used to be enslaved by mind flayers, they then collapsed into a civil war, and the people called the Gith divided into the Gith Yankee and the Gith Sarai. And the Gith Sarai are the ones who, in contrast to their warlike Gith Yankee cousins, the Gith Sarai tend to be more monastic in their mood. Many of them are monks. They meditate on the plane of limbo and shape the plane according to their own will. And they traditionally in the past, when there have been playable Gith, they've usually been Gith Sarai. But we again provide the option to play Gith Sarai or Gith Yankee.
Okay, excellent. So now, are there any new classes or backgrounds? It sounds like mainly race options and new playable races.
Yeah, the options here are all oriented toward races.
Okay.
Either new sub-races for existing races or new races. So speaking of new sub-races, elves get the option of playing Eladrin or Shatterkai. So both of those are new elf sub-races in this book.
Now, are they new to D&D or just new to 5e?
New to 5th edition, although the Eladrin actually appeared in the Dungeon Master's Guide as an example of how a DM might create a new subrace. And so the Eladrin that appears in Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes is a sort of evolution of what you saw in the Dungeon Master's Guide. There's a bit more story texture to it. There's an emphasis on the Eladrin having a connection to the 4 seasons and how aligning themselves with one of the seasons can actually alter one of their racial traits, which is their ability to teleport around. And so if you're associated with winter, your teleportation will do something different than if you're associated with summer.
Nice. Very nice. So, and if people are looking for, backgrounds and character options, don't forget, we just had Xanathar's Guide to Everything that had some cool stuff in it. So, there's it has everything, including a goldfish. Don't mess with Xanathar's goldfish. So, all right. So, so this will be available. Want to make sure to let people know when they can get their hands on this. I'm sure they can pre-order it now from, certain sources. I've pre-ordered mine through, my friendly local game store. I'm a big fan of supporting the friendly local game store, but people have different places they get stuff. I'm sure this stuff can be pre-ordered, or this book can be pre-ordered, but what are the official dates on when the huddled masses can get their excited hands on this book?
So our preferred game stores can begin selling the book on May 18th, and those stores will have the limited edition alternative cover, because like Xanathar's Guide and Volo's Guide to Monsters, this book actually has 2 covers, but the alternative cover is available only in game stores. And then there will be the wide release of the book on May 29th.
And I'm on May 29th. Okay, and I'm actually on the official Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes page on the dndwizards.com site. Both covers are fantastic. I'll tell you, is the special edition this time around, I believe the artist is Hydro74.
So this time around, the special edition cover is by an artist named Vance Kelly.
Vance Kelly. Okay. Well, it looks fantastic. So, and will it have those sort of highlights that, some of the other special edition covers have had, like kind of metal highlights or anything like that?
It has a nice matte finish. I have a copy of it right here.
Why you got to do me like that? You got it right now, and I can't look at it. Why you got to do me like that, Jeremy?
Not quite. Like it's definitely reflective, and here it's more subtle. It's almost like it was printed on silver paper.
Yeah.
Rather than have like more obvious foiling. One of our art directors could probably talk about that a little bit more, but it is very shiny.
It looks fantastic. I mean, I like Hydro 74's work for some previous stuff, but this looks. What was the artist's name? Vance Kelly. It looks fantastic. So make sure to if you want one of these limited edition special covers, go to your game store. You want to know a dirty little secret? I'll share my dirty little secret.
As long as it's not too dirty.
It's not too dirty. I buy both because and here's why it's a dirty little secret. I'm a big comic book nerd too, and I'm one of those people that complain about variant covers. Don't give me 8 different covers of comic book. I just want to. But I buy both of these D&D books.
You're enabling us, Shane.
Yeah, I know, because I'm not taking. The special cover one for the past few from you had Volos, you had Xanathars. I think there was another special edition that came out as well. They're beautiful. Those are my personal reference books. And then the retail cover is the one that I keep in my gaming bag and everything and carry around with me. So that's been so shame on you, Wizards of the Coast, for people like me who don't have any resistance. So yeah, no self-control, but they are beautiful. I mean, I've been very impressed. I think I've shared with the other like Mike Marles and Chris Perkins and Ronnie Thompson. One of the hallmarks of 5th edition is how amazing the book layouts and the interior design and the cover design. These books are you haven't had one yet that hasn't been beautiful to look at. So much. Yeah, kudos to everybody involved, because that's a whole art and profession and science of itself to make the printed word go in a book that looks good. Right. And there's a whole art to it. And whoever you have working for you at Wizards of the Coast doing these, I mean, it's, they haven't missed yet. And I've been very impressed. Yeah,
that's our graphic designer is Emmy Tanji. We have Kate Irwin as our art director. And Shauna Narciso is our senior creative director, I think. I think that those 3 are the ones who are responsible for the beautiful artwork that you see in each of these books.
And the original layout for 5th, it was Kate and Emmy, and then we were also joined by Bree Heiss, a graphic designer who still works at Wizards of the Coast, but she works on Magic the Gathering. But we got to borrow her to create the look of the 5th edition books.
So do y'all ever, and I'm asking this jokingly, obviously, but do you ever have like late night rumbles behind the building between the Magic team and the D&D team? It's like West Side Story. You're like snapping your finger.
Snapping.
Yeah.
I think we'd be vastly outnumbered.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they could surround us on all sides very, very, very easily.
Yeah.
Well, that's when you have to summon Milo. See how it all comes together?
Of course.
Yeah. You have to summon Milo.
I wouldn't want to put Milo in danger.
I wouldn't want to put them in danger of Milo.
That's right.
All right. So we'll do some Mordenkainen's trivia. And when we come back from the next break, I want to ask Jeremy and Kate what you're allowed to share at this point. And I know that you like the conflict between the demons and the devils, and that sounds super cool. But is there like an individual piece of content that is your favorite that you're allowed to share at this point? Do you have like a monster that you think is the coolest, or want to tease us with without giving us enough information that you get the crossbow bolt shot at you? So so we'll do that here in a second. But yeah, I've got some Mordenkainen's trivia. So for those that don't know, and I'm guessing that our guests know, so I'll ask this sort of in a game show type format. Mordenkainen is a fictional wizard that was from the original World of Greyhawk campaign setting that Gary Gygax actually came up with for D&D way back in the day. So do either of you know the person who actually created Mordenkainen as a player character? It was It was 1 month after the start of Gygax's Greyhawk campaign.
You've stumped me.
Yep. Kate, you want to take a run at it?
Zero chance that I know the answer to that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like I'll throw you a softball here. If you just throw out the biggest name you can think of, you're probably not going to be wrong.
So other than Gary, was it Dave?
No, it was actually Gary. Gary created Mordenkainen himself.
Right. See, I thought you. Sorry.
I think I misinterpreted.
Yeah, you faked us out.
Well, here's what happened. Yeah, sorry. He said, this is according to a Wikipedia article. It says, after a few months of almost nonstop play as the Dungeon Master, Gygax asked one of the players, and that was Rob Kuntz, to become a co-Dungeon Master, which would allow Gygax an opportunity to experience the game as a player. So,
Gotcha.
Yeah.
See, I always thought it was Gary, but the way you asked the question made me think it was someone other than Gary. So you faked us out.
Sorry, man.
You made me doubt my knowledge.
Sorry,
Well
I cast confusion. It's a cantrip for me. So Gygax created several characters, including a first-level wizard in early 1973. Gygax was interested in Finnish mythology and named the wizard Mordenkainen as a combination of mythical heroes Mordecai and Lemminkainen. So there you go. So that's where he's been around since the beginning. And there are 5 spells with Mordenkainen's name in the spell title. Do either of you all want to make a run at listing some of them out?
Do the easy ones. Mordenkainen's Magnificent Mansion.
Yep.
And Mordenkainen's. I know there's one about a sword and one about a hound.
There's Mordenkainen's sword and Mordenkainen's faithful hound. So there's 2 more.
Okay, 2 more.
Yeah. Jeremy, you want to make a run at it? I'm not trying to fake you out.
Now, are you including only ones that are in 5th edition or that have also appeared in previous editions?
Well, what I did is I went to the Forgotten Realms wiki, and there's an entry for Mordenkainen spells. So to be honest, I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, so that list might include Mordenkainen's Disjunction.
It does indeed, sir.
Yes, and that's why I asked my question, because Mordenkainen's Disjunction is not in 5th edition, but it was in previous editions.
All right.
And let's see, so we talked about the sword, the faithful hound, the magnificent mansion, the disjunction, and of course I'm blanking on the 5th one.
Think of Doctor Strange. Where does Wong hang out most of the time?
Well, yeah, it's not his magnificent mansion. It's his it's a different pocket dimension thing that he does.
So it's not the magnificent mansion. It's something about Sanctum Sanctorum.
Yeah.
It's the private sanctum.
Yeah.
Got it.
There you go. And, to remind folks, Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, the book that we're talking about today, features Mordenkainen, much like Volo's Guide to Monsters features Volo, from Greyhawk. It says he's from the Greyhawk world, and he's traveling the multiverse, making notes and whatnot. So also on behalf of many people, I'm sure, but on behalf of me, also thank you for the nod at Greyhawk. I really appreciate that. So, I love Forgotten Realms, but I think it's very cool that, this book is done from the perspective of, an inhabitant of the Greyhawk world. So I think that was cool. Was there, whose idea was that?
This is something we came up with as a team because we like to focus on the broader multiverse whenever it makes sense for us to do so. Mm-hmm. And we've also been enjoying having Mordenkainen pop up in things for a while because, as many people know, he actually appears in The Curse of Strahd, our Ravenloft adventure. He's actually someone you can meet who's trapped in Barovia. Mordenkainen also appears in the Forgotten Realms novel Death Masks. So he really gets around, and that's something that goes way back to Ed Greenwood's old column in Dragon Magazine, The Three Wizards, when Mordenkainen, Elminster, and Dalamar from Dragonlance would meet occasionally in Ed's house here on Earth to chat about various things, Dungeons and Dragons. And we more or less take that as canonical, that those wizards do know each other and that they are powerful enough that they have made contact across the planar barriers of the multiverse.
And that they hang out at Ed Greenwood's house.
And they hang out at Ed Greenwood's house. Why not? I mean, it's D&D, and there are no limits. As long as it's fun and imaginative, we can do it. So, okay, I'm going to get us to a break. When we come back, like I said, without getting you, in trouble with your employer, if you have any cool stuff you want to share, like I really like this one thing or whatever, I'd love to hear about that. But let me get us to a break, and then we will come back and do that. Folks, we are talking with Jeremy E. Crawford and Kate Welch from the Wizards of the Coast D&D team about Mordenkainen's Tome, which in your preferred game stores dropped yesterday on May 18th and will be out in general retail on May 29th. But first, some goblins are your friends. Game Goblins is Central Arkansas's premier retailer of Magic the Gathering, Warhammer 40K, board games, card games, RPGs, miniatures, and hobby accessories. And I can guarantee you, knowing Josh over there, that he has the book in stock, Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, right now, including the premium edition. Josh makes sure to get plenty of those for his customers. So get over there and check it out and support your friendly local game stores. But you can call Game Goblins at 501-224-GAME or visit them online at gamegoblins.com. That's 501-224-GAME or gamegoblins.com. Conveniently located 1121 South Bowman, right on the corner of Bowman and Canis in West Little Rock, and staffed by friendly employees. I recommend Game Goblins for all of your gaming needs. Make sure to check out their customer loyalty program that rewards you based on your actual purchases. Game Goblins earns your business and keeps it. First-time customers mention Shane Plays and receive $10 off your purchase of $50 or more. Tell them Shane Plays sent you. Hey, we're back on Shane Plays Geek Talk, a journey into the things we love. As a reminder, today's show is pre-recorded, so don't try to call in. I mean, you're always welcome to tweet me at Shane Plays, ShanePlays, just with your thoughts and notes on the show. I always love to get that. Or you can email me at shaneandshaneplays.com. But unfortunately, it's pre-recorded, so don't try to call in. I'll just hog all of the time with Jeremy E. Crawford and Kate Welch from Wizards of the Coast D&D team. Jeremy and Kate, welcome back after that incredibly long break. I know it feels like it was 30 seconds. So I just wanted to, there was one thing I wanted to ask you guys about, or give you an opportunity. I just saw something come across today on my Twitter feed, and it's the Stream of Eyes. What is this about?
Stream of many eyes.
Stream of many eyes. They're googly eyes.
That's just the normal amount of eyes.
Okay.
All the eyes.
All right.
All the eyes. It's this event that we've been planning in secret for some time. Greg Tito has been leading the charge on that. It's going to be in Los Angeles from June 1st through 3rd, and it should be this magnificent streaming event, much like what we did last year with the Stream of Annihilation, sort of in that same realm. But it sounds like this year we've cranked up the star power.
Wow.
On the Stream of Many Eyes website, some of the folks that have been announced are, I'll never say his name right. I'm sorry, Joe. Joe Manganiello.
Just go, Joe. Yeah, so he's there. No, I love Joe, and I love what he's doing, for D&D. So, yeah.
We've got Deborah Ann Wall, who will be DMing a game, and Matt Mercer, several of the other Critical Role folks will be there. All of Dice Clamor Action will be there, and a bunch of other teams. The C team, sadly, will not be there, but I will be there, so you'll get 1/5 of the C team if you tune in or.
So you are just as involved with the C team as you were before?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this was actually a part of the interview and application and job process. Here was I was making sure. I think even during my interview, I stopped in the middle of the interview with Chris Perkins. I was like, "Hey, I can still do the C team, right?" He's like, "I don't see why not."
Oh, that's cool.
He has zero say over it, but he was fine with it. But it was something that I worked out with Jeremy and with Mike Merles to make sure that I could keep doing while I'm here, because it's super, super important to me.
Yeah. Well, very cool. Yeah, I love what, Critical Role's doing, and Acquisitions Incorporated, and many others. So I don't want to accidentally confuse anyone, or want to make sure to highlight something if there's something there. Is this just a fun stream, or is this also a product kind of announcement like the Stream of Annihilation was?
We are going to reveal definitely what's up next. We're going to reveal what the big story is this year, which usually means a book going along with it.
Mm-hmm.
So people are going to want to watch that stream to find out what we're going to be coming out with next.
Yeah, I don't think we can say too much more, but it should be a very good time.
Well, it's obvious. I mean, it's obvious that what happened is the Archmage of Menzoberranzan, Gromf, Banray, was casting a spell, and Lolth took advantage of it, and they ruptured a rip into a new multiverse that is full of intelligent, malevolent googly eyes that are pouring into the Forgotten Realms. It's just googly eyes everywhere, and so everybody has to band together to defend the Forgotten Realms against the googly eyes.
You know what I like about you, Shane, is that you come to the most reasonable conclusions.
Absolutely.
It's razor every day.
After carefully analyzing and weighing out the facts at hand. All right. So I have to ask, and maybe you don't even know, but there's been this meme going around for a year or two where somebody stuck googly eyes all over the beholder on the monster manual. Was that by any chance the inspiration for this?
It's certainly the inspiration for the ad we sent out for the Stream of Many Eyes.
Yeah.
Because those googly eyes appear on the image that we sent out.
So I don't know if by chance the person who stuck the googly eyes, you're sort of my spirit animal, and I salute you. Whoever you are, if you happen to be listening to this, I salute the fact that you stuck googly eyes all over your beholder on your monster manual. So it's things like that make me happy to be a geek. So, well, all right. So folks, don't forget about that. And what are the dates on that again? June 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, the Stream of Many Eyes.
Yeah, and I think if you go to the Stream of Many Eyes website, which is dnd.wizards.com/SOME, you can actually buy tickets to be in the audience on one of the days, the 3rd, I believe, and so you can you get a big bag of D&D loot that you can't get anywhere else, and you get to watch games. Yeah, exactly. And I've seen some of the stuff that they have planned, and it's going to be absolutely bananas. So if you're in LA on June 3rd, think about picking up a ticket. Come see us.
Do you think the security would frown if I bellowed green flame at the top of my lungs and tackled everybody that was up on stage and kind of rushed that probably wouldn't go over real well, I'm thinking.
Yeah, you'd get arrested.
Darn it. Darn it. Okay, so folks, important safety tip. Don't bellow green flame at the top of your lungs and then charge the stage and try to tackle even in love. Don't do it. So, all right. And speaking of streaming, go ahead, Jeremy.
I just said that's quite a pro tip.
Yeah, right. So
life hack. Don't charge people on stage.
Yeah, just in general. Like we were talking earlier in the show about there's general principles that just kind of apply. You know? Yeah, just in general, you don't charge people and tackle them. Yeah, so whether they're on stage or not. So, okay, and I wanted to mention here, I'm on the Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes site at D&D, dndwizards.com. Just go there and you'll see a link to it. But it's products, tabletop games, RPG products, Mordenkainen's Tome Foes with some dashes in there. And now by the time this comes out, this show comes out, these will have already aired, but they're podcasts, so I'm guessing people can listen to them whenever you want. You have a whole slew of podcasts that you're doing here to kind of celebrate and promote Tome of Foes. Did you want to mention any of that at all?
Listen to them.
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah.
All of them are good.
Yes.
So listen to them, and from what I understand, you got Venture Maidens, Dungeon Drunks. I love Dungeon Drunks. That's going to end well. Roll Like a Girl, Redemption, D20 Dames, ITU Trash Crew, Taking Initiative, Tabletop Potluck, Shadow of the Cabal, D&D is for Nerds, Dice for Brains, Nerd Poker, The Dice Unkind, and Return to Greyhawk. And if I missed somebody there, I apologize. You provided these podcasters, I guess they live stream or do actual plays of D&D games, and you provided them content of Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes to work into their game. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So if listening to today's show, you're still like, I don't know. I mean, and shame on you because it sounds amazing, but you're allowed to make your own choices in life. If you'd like to know a little bit more, if you'd like to take it for a test drive, go to the Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes page. on dndwizards.com, and there's a whole list of podcasts down there that you can listen to and hear some of this amazingly cool content worked into actual plays of D&D. And there may or may not be the Devils versus Demons Big Foam Fingers by then, but I have it on good authority that that Jeremy and Kate are working on it. All right. Well, as I like to say, and I shamelessly stole it from Star Trek Generations, and then I paraphrase it, time is a predator that stalks us all our lives, and we are almost out of time. Radio goes so quick. I just wanted to ask both of you, and before I forget, thank you both so much for coming on. I've really appreciated it. Everything I see about Mordenkainen looks great, and I hope it's a big success. And thank you for continuing to put out this cool stuff that not kind of confounds expectations of what we might get, but gives us what we want, if that makes sense, right? You're like, what is this? Oh, this is great, and it's not just, well, we're going to phone it in and put out a sort. You guys are doing cool stuff, and I appreciate that. So wanted to thank you for that. But in this book, is there anything you can share? Keep in mind, this will broadcast on the 19th. That won't get you into trouble. Like this, I think this is the coolest thing in the book. Yeah.
So I have a favorite monster in this book, and it is it's a pickup from older editions, right? I think that this monster's been around for a long time, but this is the Gray Render, and this bad boy is a large monstrosity who's chaotic neutral, and he just looks like a rhino with an alien's head and 6 eyes, horrifying to behold. But there's something about it that allows it to bond with a suitable master, and then it shows deference, and then it serves its master, like Chewbacca and Han Solo. But my favorite part about this is that Gray Renders have quirks there's a Gray Render quirk table you can roll a d12 on to determine the random quirk that your Gray Render might have. And some of these are things like howls when it rains, likes to snuggle. It buries all the treasure it finds, has terrific and eye-watering flatulence. So it's this monster that bonds you to there's nothing you can do about it. You have a Gray Render who's in love with you and follows you everywhere and serves your, but also just rips a gnarly fart. That right there is D&D at its finest. I love this monster so much.
I'll tell you, Kate, I love it too. And this rhino, inspired monster. As soon as this book comes out, I'm going to get right on the horn and tell all my friends about it.
Gray Render.
Gray Render. All right. So Kate loves monsters with strange quirks that like to cut huge cheese. And what about you, Jeremy? What is something in this book that you particularly love?
As I often say, to me, it's like everything. They're all my babies, so I love all of them. But so today, the baby I'll feature is I loved being able to write some of the ancient history of the elves that we put into this book. Because for many years, we've talked about elves originally having Fey ancestry, this association with the Feywild, but it's always been pretty murky in a lot of our books of what does that actually mean historically for the elves. And so I really enjoyed fleshing out their origin story as the offspring of the god Corellon, about their diaspora through the multiverse and how they ended up in different worlds of D&D. So it was really fun being able to tell this cosmic story for one of our most popular races.
So, and I mean, there's people out there that are huge, elf fans. I think elves are cool. But now, and I'm going to step out of my role playing as somebody who knows nothing about Mordenkainens and kind of follow up on that with, one of the things I saw is I believe there's a drow elf subtype that each day it can choose what its gender is.
No, so you're close.
Okay.
So in the player's handbook, we mentioned in the first part of the book that's all about character creation that there are certain blessed elves who take after the god Corellon, who is depicted sometimes as male, sometimes as female and sometimes as neither. And there are certain elves who are blessed to have that ability as well. And so in Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, we go into that a little more, that there are indeed these blessed elves, and if a DM says, sure, you can play one of them, each day when you finish a long rest, you decide if your character is male, female, or neither.
Okay.
And those elves are considered among their people to be among the most blessed because they are reflecting the mutable nature not only of their god, but also the mutable nature of that all elves had originally. Because part of the story we tell is that all elves originally could take on many different forms, and not just transform into other creatures, but transform like their god into a waterfall or into a cloud, and that these are these creatures who had an amazing connection to all of creation. And part of the tragedy of elves is that they diminished and became more like mortals. And they're still, of course, very long-lived, but they can no longer soar in the air and plunge under the way the original elves could.
Okay, so I mean that's kind of an example of like when you're given the race options. I guess I read maybe somebody was speculating on an application of that, and they're like, for an example, if you were a drow, because in the drow culture, it's a matriarchal. So if you could, I guess somebody was speculating that could cause some interesting role playing for that player. If the drow find out you can suddenly decide to be the female gender one day, that they may not take that very well. So, just because of the power structure. So I guess that's not written into the book. That was just somebody.
No, that is also in the book.
Oh, okay.
So one thing that we talk about in the book that if one of these blessed elves happens to be a drow, the drow society is very uneasy about this, and a person being able to change their sex could destabilize the society. And also, this ability is a blessing of Corellon, who is the enemy of Lolth. But those drow who have this blessing often end up being peacemakers and allies with different types of elves, because they show that despite the great schism among the elves, that Corellon's care and blessing can even rest upon one of the drow. Nice.
All right. Yeah, because the drow are elves too. So, just to show you the fun you can have with D&D, and then I've got to wrap. Is now I can already tell the podcast version of the show will probably be 5-10 minutes longer than the radio version, but we will get all of the good stuff, the really core stuff about Mordenkainen's into the radio version as well. But there's no way I'm cutting out some of the stuff we talked about because it's really good. One of my players, we've been in Out of the Abyss, and he plays a drow that was raised on the surface as a wood elf. So this character's running around down in the Underdark, and looks like a drow but has like the accent of a wood elf, can't speak, Undercommon or anything. So we've had a lot of fun with that. People making assumptions about this character is like, well, I'm basically a wood elf because that's how I was raised. But yet people assume that I'm a drow, by culture. So you can have some interesting storytelling with D&D for sure. All right. Well, I've got to draw us to a close. Again, thank y'all so much. Is there any final thing that you'd like to say to the listeners?
Just hope everyone keeps telling awesome stories in their D&D games and keeps telling us what they hope to see in the future.
All right, cool. Sounds good to me. Well, I appreciate you both. And in closing, I have to do this. I have no choice, and I take no legal responsibility for any mental damages. It's time for the bad joke of the week.
Oh boy.
All right. And I picked out a D&D bad joke of the week just for you two. All right, you ready? Okay. Here we go. Yeah. All right. Zach, are you ready? Are you braced? Okay. A human, a dragonborn, and a halfling walk into a bar. The dwarf had dark vision. It took a second.
Very good.
That's kind of a deep cut.
Yeah.
All right, and I just saw this yesterday. It was a meme flowing around. So here's a bonus thought for you and all the listeners and all the D&D fans everywhere. An arrow may have your name on it, but a fireball is addressed to whom it may concern. So, all right. Thanks again, Jeremy and Kate. This has been Jeremy Crawford, the D&D lead rules designer and managing editor, and Kate Welch, D&D designer and member of the Acquisitions Incorporated C team. We've been talking about Mordenkainen's Tome, which will be in preferred stores, Wizards preferred stores, May 18th, and in general retail, May 19th. So, Kate, Jeremy, thanks again. Everybody else, we will catch you next week on Shane Plays.